All right, so we used dry shrink prep on this side, and then we used a dryer sheet over on the other side, and you know what that looks like. So we're gonna be doing a comparison shrinking with carbon. I am more than familiar enough with both of them. So we're just gonna see how they work. Generally speaking, the dryer sheet floats a little bit more. The dry shrink prep is a little bit stickier. So that's really gonna be, in my opinion, personal preference. Not so much like this is definitely better than that one. What you might find is you will prefer one over the other for your for the tint that you shrink, but it definitely doesn't mean one is better than the other just from that. So when we're shrinking carbon film, it's gonna move a little bit slower. This one still shrinks pretty well, but it definitely moves just a little bit slower. So like usual, I do a lot more shrinking on dryer sheet than I typically do with dry shrink prep, mostly because I misplaced the dry shrink prep baggie. That's more on me than anything. But you can see this nice float happening here. And basically what that means is it's not really trying to bind up on me as I press it down. And I really like that, or I really got used to that, because that's what I learned to shrink on. But dryer sheets have a bunch of weirdo chemicals in them. You're always rubbing them on your hands. So long-term effects, I don't know. It's not the safest of materials to use. So it's moving along pretty well. Everything is just kind of laying down. And no matter what, whatever material that you use, at least with my style of shrinking, when you press it down, you want it to kind of lock down in that area. So you want the material to float enough to let all the air run through it. And then press down and like smooth out evenly. So that was pretty good. So now let's go for the dry shrink prep. We were pretty fair. I think it's still a little wet there from, as somebody reminded me in chat, probably from the snow, but all this is fine. So right now everything's great. See a little bit of pull shrinking? Yeah, that's gonna be no matter what. I'm always gonna pull shrink. My method of shrinking is, I don't know, I'd call it a bit of a hybrid, where I will heat up the film, let it lay smooth, and then pick it up where I feel it needs to be picked up. And then sometimes I'll even go on the underside and blow some air. But as far as this is going right now today, I mean, this is acting almost identical to the dryer sheet on the other side right now. I think it's starting to stick a little bit in there. We're running against the dryer sheet. I'm really not seeing much binding right now. Everything is sticking the way that I want it to. I think where you might have a lot of extra sticking is in humid conditions. When you get into really humid conditions, this would probably make it like not dry out very well. Right now, we're in the middle of winter and it is very dry. So once you give it that time to, like, you know, the water to evaporate, and continue your dry shrinking. Then you'd probably be better off. But in the summertime, on especially like a rainy day, and it's just really humid here, it takes everything longer to dry out. So if you're in the deep south like Florida, I could expect it takes a little bit of time. But there we go. I could literally not tell you if I used dryer sheet or dry shrink prep. Both of them to me with this carbon film went identically. A lot of it comes down to the way you shrink it and if everything starts to fall in place, but I'm always looking for a material that when I card it down, it sticks. Oh, and people in my group that are calling out my hard card. So this is a felt card. This is what it looks like when it's brand new. Sometimes, like the MacTac specifically, the generic ones, they're similar enough. But this is what it looks like after a couple years. They get better with time, all right? Shut up. They get better with time. So these edges get pressed down a little bit more. It's very blocky. They kind of taper down a little bit more. So screw you guys. I love my disgusting looking hard card.